Hi everyone, this is Korosh Erfani and today is Thursday, February 5th, 2026. I am going to have a short talk regarding the negotiations that are going to take place in Muscat in Oman between the United States and the Iranian government. So a lot of people are guessing about the result and the outcome of these negotiations, which is good. But we should not forget that there are two countries at the negotiations table, and there is one that's not there, but it can influence the outcome of the negotiations. That's why we are in a very odd situation, right? Because usually the negotiations depend directly on what is being exchanged between the two sides, right? But in this case, we know that there is a invisible third side that will determine if there is any positive output for these negotiations or not. The United States cannot really negotiate, for itself. For the American interest, for the American national interest, for example. It would have been good if it could, but unfortunately it's impossible. So that's why the United States is negotiating on behalf of Israel, right? And in favor of Israel and for the interest of Israel. So the negotiators are there under the label of the American representative, Witkoff or Jared Kushner, but we know that Jared Kushner is the double of Netanyahu. So Israel is there, directly, indirectly, however we can interpret it, but Israel is present there, and the conditions that had been set up by Israelis cannot really let any chance for a positive outcome in these negotiations. I am talking about the absolute zero activity for any nuclear project for the Iranian side, getting the uranium that had been already reached out of Iran, and then bringing the missile activities and missile projects of Iran on the table. This is something unacceptable. And also talking about the end of any support for the paramilitary groups across the Middle East. These are the things that are required by the invisible side, Israel, and on the other hand rejected, we can say, beforehand by Iran. So that's why we should not really wait for something extraordinary. I think if we want to have any expectations for the negotiations that are going to take place in just a few hours now, should be really grounded on the reality of the fact that Israel is there, right? Israel is controlling and is trying to completely thwart, sabotage, or any word that you want to use for that, but they are there, right? They are. Israelis are directly or indirectly there to hinder any real outcome for or any real agreement between the United States and Iran. So we know why, right? I don't think that is necessary to talk about that long, because we know that Israel is a war machine. Israel is a country that had been created to wage war. It doesn't have any other philosophy of existence but that, right? Waging war, destroying, killing, bombing. That's why a lot of analysts right now believe that this machine cannot be stopped anymore. As you can see in this article is a matter of just the war economy. Israel has now a war economy, and its economy is based on waging war. And it's transforming the American economy in a similar setting, in a similar situation, right? So that's why this transformation of the United States, into the greater Israel is a serious project. So that's why recently I published a new article regarding that you can find in the website alms.com. The title is "The USA as Greater Israel and the World as Greater Middle East." I am going to talk about that in a separated video, completely out of this, because there are many things that I would like to discuss about the details of this article. But for now, if you want to have just an idea about this, as you can see, that's the Zionist plot to transform the United States into Greater Israel. That's the idea, all right? But as I told you, I am going to talk about it in a separate video. Now, let's come back to the possibility of having a positive outcome for these negotiations. I have to say that potentially and theoretically it's strongly possible. Why? Because the Iranian regime is in a very bad situation, economically, socially, politically, for the infrastructure. So for the Iranian regime is 99% good and positive to get really to an agreement in order to avoid war. Okay? Same thing for the United States. If you see the situation of the American economy with everything that's happening right now, with a catastrophic really record for the job market, for the stock market. So we know that from 5 phases of getting to the collapse, the economic collapse, the American economy has already passed 4 of these 5 phases. So we need just one in order to have officially the recession in the United States. So, which means Washington needs absolutely an agreement also in order to avoid war, so that it can focus on its economy and maybe the possibility of having a civil war here in the United States. But on the other hand, the war machine doesn't want that. Israel doesn't want that, right? Israel wants to push effectively everything in such a way that the United States becomes the tool or the leverage in order to get to all the Zionist objectives. This is what I try to develop in this article, as I told you, and we are going to talk about that later. The last point is that Israel doesn't want peace, because with peace, Israel will die out. With war, Israel will survive. So can you imagine that the most important, the protagonist, the most important factor of this negotiation is a country that needs war, not only requires, but needs war. So it means that if there is any other outcome for these negotiations, is bad for Israel. So that's why Israel threatened the United States that if there is something like an agreement that doesn't favor the Israeli interests, Israel will act independently, which means Israel will attack on Iran independently. Okay, so independently means that we will trigger the war, and then you go and you take care of Iran by bombing that country and by most probably having thousands and thousands of casualties in the U.S. Army. So that's why when we see from the different angles, we cannot really find any positive, possible, plausible perspective for a normal negotiations with both sides really willing to get to an agreement. We don't see that because of the presence of the war machine and the criminal entity which is Israel. So you remember in the my last video, I came back to this story of the different parameters that Israel has in order to put pressure on President Trump. So we are talking about this video, with the title, Israel is sabotaging the U.S.-Iran negotiations. Okay, so they sabotaged anything till now for 45, 48 years. Every time the United States and Iran try to have kind of approachment or negotiations, Israel thwarted that. Israel neutralized that. Israel sabotaged that. So that's why this time, when Israel is 100% or almost 200% ready for waging a war, it's impossible to see any chance for these negotiations. I hope that I am making a huge mistake. I hope that my theory and my interpretation is completely wrong, and there would be a good and positive end for this negotiation. But rationally and based on the historical experiences of Israel's behavior, we cannot be too much optimistic. We will see. It's going to happen in a few hours, and we are monitoring that, and if necessary we will have more videos regarding this topic. Thank you very much for watching this video.